Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jake with the Breakdown once again, and I'm here with my co-host Brian. So introduce yourself.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the breakdown.
All right, so we're gonna just dive right into it, guys. It's actually gonna be I was actually planning on making episode 2 of WrestleMania to be about either Jericho and Punk or Sheamus or booking the build up for Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. But I think we're gonna have to push that back because I think last night's promo with The Rock and John Cena is certainly newsworthy, and it's certainly worth taking the time to do a follow up video. I think the people that we got some feedback from on the first video enjoyed it, so we're gonna do a little follow up on that. So,
Definitely.
Brian, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I didn't watch any of Raw last night. I was busy working on other stuff, but I made a point of turning it on right at the top of the hour as the show was ending because I knew The Rock would do his typical going over the allotted amount of time. And actually, you and I exchanged a pretty funny sequence of text picturing Vince McMahon ripping his hair out, going, God, USA is going to kill us for this.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, I enjoyed it. I was happy. I think he did what we had kind of hoped for, and he didn't have his quote kayfabe rock talk the whole time. He wasn't speaking in the third person. It seemed more real. There's just the way his tone was, and I really enjoyed that. I kind I know it's just the showman he is and stuff like that, but I was really kind of tired of hearing about this just now tweeting insert some stupid insult about John Cena is trending now on
yeah.
Twitter. But
The Twitter references
I
are
was
getting
talking to my
very
brother
old.
yesterday, and it's tough for me to hate on anything he does. I think I'm kind of mad at him. I think I have been since he officially left. But I really enjoyed it, and I was happy that Cena came out when he did. And I'm very, very excited for the matchup. Unlike I know a lot of people are for some reason. So it should be interesting. But I really liked a lot of things that were said, and I just kind of liked the way the makeup of the promo, how it kind of progressed, and how it started getting more and more real with everything The Rock said. How he mentioned that Cena thinks he's ghetto and he went to private school, or that he considers himself an underdog, and he's been in every main event, it seems, for the past since 2005. And how he's shoved down our throats, and that's a lot of things that I think a lot of people may think, especially in terms of fans. So I think that it was good in that regard.
Yeah, I would certainly agree, and it really the one of the couple miscellaneous ideas I had about the promo on my end was a just like you said, anything that he says, it's really a testament to the kind of star that he is. The minute that music hits, the air is just sucked out. It is all eyes are on him for the
Mm-hmm.
entire time. He has an amazing ability to just captivate every single person in the audience, you know what I mean, and bring their attention to whatever he is doing in the ring. It's
Definitely.
really amazing. And the second thing, so there's I think he's got to be the number one guy in the history of the business who's been able to do that to that extent. I will say that about him. And the second thing is, it's also a testament to how to how much kind of I guess I'm gonna say respect, but I think there's a better word. I can't really find it right now. But that Vince McMahon and the rest of the front office has for these two guys, letting them go out there and do that kind of, because like you said, the makeup of the promo was very, very loose in my mind. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It was like he's out, The Rock's out there, and it looks like he is in no rush to get anything done. You know what I mean? He's out there and just soaking up the moment and just letting things play out how they're going to play out. And it's really amazing because I'm sure not a lot. I'm sure that not a high percentage of that promo was written down. Do this here, do this here. You know what I mean? It was basically them saying, okay, here's 30 minutes. You guys go out there and do your thing. And for a guy that's been that had just come back from a 7-year absence last year. I mean, that really speaks to just how big of a star he is, and how how much respect he's built up, and how much faith that Vince McMahon and the rest of those guys have in those two. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's my thoughts on that. And as far as The Rock's comments, kind of shooting back towards John Cena, I thought in terms of whether or not it was a pass or fail. You know, I made the video the other day saying I think in my mind he needs to do this and he needs to do that to add some substance to the storytelling, because he's always been lacking in my mind as a storyteller. You know, but I think there's like you said, there were certainly things that came out into the open that he got out that I'm very glad he said, and that I'm sure a lot of the audience have been thinking, and that's what everybody really feels. I think he could have gone a step further by saying something like, you know, he did the stereotypical generic, the generic of all generic shit that a babyface has said in the history of the business. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for all of you guys. You know what I mean? Like, it was. So I don't know. It was and I thought he could have said something like, and I'm also gonna do it so that when my hand is raised and I beat you for the 1, 2, 3, we can show, all of us here tonight can show Vince McMahon that, this era is not what people want, you know what I mean? And this is stale, and everything you represent is stale, and kind of go on that and go a little deeper with it. But I thought it was good, very, very good for what it was, and very entertaining. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think you're definitely right. He's always been a kind of guy that pries on, I think the fan base more or less than in terms of story. I think he's never been a guy who's been a real psychological, in-ring based worker. I think he's always been a guy that's kind of been out there to, for lack of a better word, clown. I don't mean he's clowned like at Santino level or anything like that, or Vito when he wore a skirt.
Yeah.
How'd you like that name drop? But I think he definitely, it's like you said in your video, he needs to kind of let go of that Attitude Era mentality, and he kind of needs to come out here and be honest, because he's going to get destroyed verbally if he doesn't, and not everybody buys into the ridiculous insults and the slow talking baby voice that he does when he's talking like whoever he's making fun of. It's different now, and I think he realizes that. But I think his character is so larger than life that it's not, you're not going to see much of a change in that regard. But I like I said earlier, there's a lot of people that I've heard that are not too excited for this. In fact, this one kid who I actually go to school with, who I told you before, Jake, he's an independent wrestler around here. He's always talking to me about wrestling on Facebook and stuff, and he's convinced that this is a match of kiss ass versus half ass. And I just don't really respect the kid's opinion at all in that regard, because saying that John Cena is a kiss ass and saying The Rock isn't is hypocritical, because clearly if the John Cena is and The Rock is, and I don't think either of them are, I think they both were just right at the given time to be over with the company as they are. And I think it was, The Rock was over at his point and Cena's over at this point. For whatever reason, the front offices felt like they were the right guys to push, and I think that's just the way it goes. But I've been watching a lot of older Cena matches, and I think when you take that hate away from him that so many smart marks seem to have, a lot of his matches have worked really well, and he's done a really good job at being this guy who's considered, a pile of shit wrestler and has 5 moves. He's really done a decent job. And who's The Rock? Who would you say The Rock is if he didn't have 5 moves too?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it always goes. Triple H is the same way. Austin was the same way. It's just the way that the top guys seem to be, because the mainstream wrestling now is just really contained in terms of, you're not going to do 1,000 moves, and all of them be over.
Right.
it's just like the demographic of the fan. It's just the way the company has progressed. But I'm, like I said, I'm happy with where they're going with this, and I'm really excited for the match. I expect it to be pretty stiff, all honesty, despite how professional both of these guys appear to be.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that as far as the actual in-ring work well, first I'll start off with this. I think another thing that The Rock could have said, which he's touched on, but a lot of the problem with a lot of the problems with the points that The Rock is making is that, like, I'm sitting back here and I'm saying, well, it sounds like he's kind of going in this direction with it, or it sounds like he's saying this, but he's not saying it out in the open. You know what I mean? He's not. I think he should be a lot more direct and say something like. I thought it would have been so. I was expecting him to say something like, you know, you've been shoved down our throats since 2005, and you're still not even over. You know, half the audience boos you in every arena that you go into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you're not a top guy. You know what I mean? Like you're not all that you think you are, and I'm going to put you in your place. You know what I mean, at WrestleMania, and kind of go in that direction. So I don't know, and then Cena comes out there and doesn't do any of this beating around the bush at all.
Yeah.
That The Rock's doing, and comes out here and calls him out about having promo notes written on his wrist, okay, and stuff like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, and in my opinion, really probably won the verbal battle again. And it just comes down to whether, as far as fans go, it just comes down to whether or not you want to fault The Rock. Because at this point, they've been saying the same thing back and forth to each other. Cena's, standing there saying, I'm here every week and you're not. And The Rock's saying, like, yeah, I'm not here every week, but I was here and I did everything I wanted to do and I left. And if I didn't love the WWE, I wouldn't be standing here right now doing this promo. And at that point, they're just basically agreeing to disagree, and there's not much more that needs to be said than that. You know what I mean? So it just, from a fan's point of view, you really have to pick a side. But I think that John Cena is winning the verbal battle, and frankly, I don't know if WWE is setting it up this way, but I think that they're really scared of him getting their top guy getting booed out of the house at WrestleMania in The Rock's hometown, and they want him to go in there and have kind of a no-holds-barred promo mentality so that come WrestleMania, every single person in the audience isn't standing up booing the guy out of the house, and maybe he can his character and can catch some fire in these last couple weeks leading up to the big show, and maybe he can turn some people over to his side. And frankly, he's starting to turn me, so because he's doing such a good job on the mic. So,
yeah, I agree. I agree.
But and as far as the actual, you touched on what we can expect as far as the actual in-ring work. I think that these guys, it's going to be basically the same thing that would happen if, if Michaels and Rock were to have, a WrestleMania match or get in the ring with each other for the first time. I think they're going to be able to get away with doing like, a finisher spot fest, for the entire match. You know what I mean? Basically just hit each other's finishers and kick out of it, do a ton of false finishes and stuff like that. But, in terms of you kind of touched on, like, whether or not The Rock is, he's changed kind of his promo style a little bit because he realizes the times have changed. He's also proved that in the ring, because when he got in the ring at Survivor Series, he hit, like, a bridging fisherman suplex and stuff like that, and really, wanted to come out there because it really wanted to come out there and shine, because it's like I said before, the guy has so much pride in whatever he does. Say what you want about him, but he has so much pride in his work, and he's not going to go out there and not. He's not going to go out there having been gone for 8 years from being at a WrestleMania and embarrass himself. There's just no way it's going to happen. And I think that these guys are both going to be they've both been trying to outdo each other on the mic, and they're going to try to outdo each other in the ring. I think, that's my opinion on it. So, and another thing that I wanted to ask you about here is let's kind of get some thoughts out on the table on what we think as far as the backstage heat with The Rock is concerned. What are your thoughts on that? Is it justified?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think just a lot of people feel like, and granted, I mean, I don't know what the situation is because I'm not there, and I don't work with the company, but I think I would be a little frustrated, definitely, if you book this like a year in advance and the guy's around 3 times a year and he hasn't been in the ring up until Survivor Series for 3 or 4 years. And I mean, I'd be frustrated, but I think at the same time, he's like transcends like the whole concept of professional wrestling, I think, and I just don't think it's warranted to hate on a guy who's given so much to it, no matter how much you dislike that he kind of left, But at the same time, a lot of good points are made, and I think a lot of people are just going to bat for Cena because everybody loves him backstage, I think that's just kind of what it comes down to, personally.
That's a good point. Yeah,
but, I mean, what do you think? I mean,
well, it's a couple things. First of all, it's like I told you when we were texting each other the other day. It's going to be absolutely a huge moneymaker. So I think when the wrestlers see like a couple extra zeros on their checks after that show, I'm sure they're not going to be complaining to anybody. But the second thing is, it's like I've said on many different occasions before. There's such a big difference between what we consider to be a star in this day and age and what we consider to be a star 10, 20 years ago. Okay, WWE will push a guy to the moon, like they did for Cena, but then once The Rock sets foot in a WWE arena, or once the glass breaks and Stone Cold comes out, the entire place turns on Cena. They don't want to have anything to do with them because these guys are so much larger than life than anybody that the WWE has produced, in my opinion, in the last, since the Attitude Era ended. It was a different time. Guys were allowed to do a lot more. Guys' pushes were a lot more organic because basically the fans, with the exception of a few guys, the fans chose who they wanted to see get pushed. Okay, and now it's, especially in the last couple years, we've seen a ton of guys get pushed that have no business being in the main event or the spot that they have, and because they're WWE, there's no other. I mean, I love them and I hate them, but there are very few other type of companies on this planet that have such a lack of respect for their fan base, because on a lot of occasions they simply don't care what the fans have to say. They simply don't care what the fans think, and they ram a lot of these people down, these guys down our throats. So it's it just goes to show you that. And they're starting to experiment a little bit. Like you see, guys like CM Punk, okay, are starting to kind of become a big name because he's allowed to say a little bit more and do a little bit more and have a lot more freedom. But again, the only reason that's the case is because he had to go to the office the day before, as his contract is running up, and say, "Look, I'm leaving unless you let me do this kind of stuff." And then the handcuffs came off, and now look where he is. Okay, so it's very, you know what I mean? So the stars were so much bigger than they are today. So I think that WWE realizes that, and they realize that there's not many people that are around now that can fill that they can they can't find two guys to have this huge moneymaker match like they could years ago that are on the active roster. So I think that they love an opportunity to bring in guys like this to have a big marquee match at WrestleMania. I mean, if you look on a lot of the internet sites, I hear almost every year, oh, the WWE is reaching out to Stone Cold Steve Austin again, like for a match with a possible match with CM Punk, or like I even heard at for Survivor Series this year they were planning on doing some kind of like 4-on-4 like elimination match with like Team WWE versus Team Anti WWE. They were going to bring in Stone Cold, Nash, Vince McMahon was going to get in there, okay, and have this, these teams with all these guys from the past and everything, and it just speaks volumes about what kind of faith they have in their active roster. So and you know what, if it means bringing in guys from back in the day to accomplish their goals and have a huge moneymaker match at their biggest show of the year, then in my opinion, so be it, and I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But
well, all right. Well, is there anything else we can even talk about for it, or?
Well, I got off got out everything I wanted to say. So I guess kind of in sum, pretty good promo last night. I think The Rock could have gone a little bit further, but I think I give it a passing grade, and I think you would as well, Brian, if I understand you right. And but right now, it looks like Cena's on the offensive in terms of the verbal battle, and we'll continue to cover the build up to this match as much as we can over the last couple weeks. And stay tuned for some future videos on the Road to WrestleMania series. This has been The Breakdown with Jake.
I'm Brian.
And thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you guys next time.